Gracie Park, who I had a little crush on when she was in Battlestar Galactica. So it was the reason why I got onto it, and yeah, I don't, like I said, it's not. I mean, it went for 10 series, but it's. I can understand why it's sort of along the lines of CSI and all that type of setup in CSI or whatever, which are shows I never got into really. Well, I did watch them, but to me they weren't amazing shows. They were just enjoyable to watch. No, I refuse to watch the remake of Magnum PI because I grew up watching Magnum PI, just like I refuse to watch the remake of MacGyver because I watched MacGyver as a kid. And quite frankly, Dean Anderson was MacGyver. He made MacGyver. Just like he sort of made Stargate. It was his acting, his personality that comes through in his acting. But I didn't, and I suppose that's, I mean, I might like them, I don't know. I didn't watch, because as a kid, they had reruns of the original Star Trek series. And I was huge on that. I really loved the Star Trek series, and then they brought out the Next Generation, and I didn't watch that at all. I didn't watch the Next Generation until about 2010. I think it's about 20 years since it came out. However, I did have no problem watching Star Trek Voyager when that came out, and I love Star Trek Voyager. In fact, it's one of my favourite series. I watched a little bit of Deep Space Nine, and I wasn't a fan of that. I felt that was more like a Star Trek soap opera. Thank you for the follow there. Who was that? DM291223 exclamation mark. Maybe the exclamation mark was put in there by his thing, but yeah, you seem to come in on a really good convo. Just DM is good. No, it's good. I prefer to abbreviate, but yeah, thank you for the follow anyway, and welcome to the stream. Yeah, so the new online series of the new of what of Star Trek. You mean Lower Decks as the animated one? No, I haven't watched the Lower Decks one. I'm very particular about my Star Trek and my sci-fi stuff. There's things like I said, I mean, eventually I watched the Next Generation, and I did enjoy it, but it wasn't my favourite. It was nowhere near my favourite. And I think Voyager for me was way better, and I think it's because there was conflict, where the Next Generation was mainly puzzle solving, political things and all that kind of stuff. It had funny moments and all that. I didn't dislike it. I did thoroughly enjoy it. I won't say it, you know, but it just really didn't push all the buttons for me, where the Next Generation, the original series, there was a lot of conflict and all that, and fighting and all that kind of stuff, and that's what I sort of like with Star Trek Voyager. It was just overcoming the conflict. Discovery I like. I really like Discovery, DM. Really like Discovery. And actually I've got to have a look at the new one, New Worlds, as well, with Captain Pike. But yeah, if I rate mine, see, all above because it's the start of it, and the characters, you know, with Leonard Leroy and William Shatner and Defrost Kelly and the guy who plays Scotty, I'm forgetting his name. Well, all of them, check off all those guys. So the characters and the actors are fantastic, horror and stuff. Fantastic. I love that. And for the time, you know, it brought out a lot of dreams and stuff like that. It made your imagination go wild and captured your imagination, because obviously that along with Star Wars at the time, it was just the possibilities of what could be, what's going on, you know. It's a new frontier, and that's included, you know, in your imagination as well, I think. So, but that's always going to be the favourite for me, my number one, for that reason. I think my number two... Hurry up, you. Let me get in, because I don't trust these. Oh, yeah, it would help if I changed the range, eh? My number two is definitely Voyager. I really got into it, really loved that, really grew attached to the characters. Especially the Doctor, the hologram. One of the best characters on Star Trek, I think. And 7 of 9. Oh, Jerry Ryan. Well, she was fantastic playing 7 of 9, her character. Get it. The only reason. Oh, really? Does I have Kate McGrew in it? Oh, I'm trying to read and turn the corner. Yeah. Bet your cause he's getting all excited now. Oh, he's being distracted. Let me get the clips ready. Yeah, see, the problem for me is, like most of you know, I don't have a TV. And I only got Amazon Prime. But I do manage to be able to watch, like, Discovery and all that. Because, like I said, I just got Netflix recently, and for the price and what, there's nothing on there I want to watch. It's that simple. It's not worth the price for me. So, yeah, but Voyager, my next favourite one, and I think I'll put it equal with Voyager, to be honest, was Enterprise. Season 1 was okay of Enterprise, but 2, 3, I think I went for 5 seasons. I think 2 and 3 and 4 were amazing, in my opinion. Absolutely amazing. I watched an episode and I had to watch the next one. I couldn't wait. I wanted to watch the next one straight away. I don't know if I got Paramount Plus in this country, DM. I don't know if we have it in my country. Yeah, I think it's the problem with the last season with the Enterprise. It wasn't really the last season. It was the last episode. And I think it was because they were thinking that the series was going to carry on, and then Paramount said, no, we're getting rid of Star Trek. No more Star Trek. And they had to rewrite the ending because it made no sense, the last episode, at all. No sense whatsoever. And I think that's what happened, which is an absolute shame, but I'm in New Zealand. And no, I don't mind you asking, hence the reason why I answered. I live in New Zealand. There's a new movie. I like Picard as well, which is on Amazon. I love Picard. Actually, really enjoyed it. 2 seasons of it. A lot of people didn't like Picard because he was frail at the beginning of it, and that's not the Jean-Luc Picard, but you got to remember that this is the Jean-Luc Picard that had been retired for so long, been through a lot. He was still human after all, and it weighed on him and got to him and stuff. I fully got the situation he was in and the way they made him and how they build him back. But and that's the problem with it, and I said that's probably the reason why it took me so long to watch The Next Generation after the original series, because you have that, what you used to, you're a fan of, and you don't want that to be changed in any way. But however, I thoroughly went in. I learned years ago to go in with an open mind with these things. Don't expect it to be, look at what it is about and then have a think about it. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it was. I mean, for crying out loud, from most atlases and maps and stuff, we get left off that as well. So yeah, there's no way we're going to be added with a lot of things. We don't get a lot of things down here. He did, and there was the 6 hours. Brilliant. 44k, that'll do. Actually, we got enough for oh, we need a little bit more actually, because we've got to hire a new driver. So yeah, but I mean, I love Picard. Yeah, but that for me, Enterprise was a great one. And then I'll put The Next Generation, I think, and then Deep Space Nine right down. I didn't watch much of that. All it reminded me was watching a soap opera in space. I was not a huge fan of Deep Space Nine. I just could not get into that, and I was disappointed about that, being a fan of Star Trek. And as far as the movies go, I love the Star Trek movies with the old guys. The Next Generation, I actually love the Next Generation movies, Star Trek movies, more than I love the series. And I really enjoyed the original cast movies, Star Trek 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What was the 5th one? 4 was The Voyage Home. Was the 5th one the first one with The Next Generation? 6 was Generations, was it? With Picard and Kirk in it. I can't remember. But yeah, but the new Star Trek movies, I don't consider them true Star Trek. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, because J.J. Abrams did it, and he did Star Wars, and he brought aliens in from Star Wars into Star Trek, and I don't like that. Keep those two apart. Star Wars is Star Wars. Keep your aliens in Star Wars. Don't bring the same looking aliens into Star Trek. Star Trek is Star Trek. They're separate. They're good for their own reasons. Don't cross them over. Don't join them together. Don't bring in elements of it into them. I was more passionate about that, and I was really passionate about that, and that's what I didn't like. One of the things I didn't like about Star Trek movie, the new ones, but there wasn't many. That was one. I like the new Star Trek movies, don't get me wrong. I like them as a movie. The story and everything behind it, I liked it. I just didn't like the fact that the way they changed everything, they made it more Star Wars looking. That's my bugbear with it. Am I going, no, this way. Too busy getting hot under the collar about J.J. Abrams' interference with Star Trek. But yeah, he probably would be. They are making a fourth, are they? What are they going to do with Chekhov? Because that poor actor died, didn't he, that played Chekhov, and he was really good at Chekhov, actually. What they did with the characters was great. I'm not going to deny that. Chris Pine did a good job as Captain Kirk. What's his name from Heroes? They ended up playing Spock. He really looked like Spock, a young Spock to me. That was great. Maybe a bit biased about Carl Urban, but I thought he did a great job as Bones just because he's a New Zealander actor and he's fantastic in The Boys. He was also fantastic in a lot of things, actually. But one of the and it's probably me personally, one of the bugbears about the thing is the time travel. And I always have a little bit of a hate or a dislike for changing the timeline theory. I've never been... I don't agree with it. I don't think it's possible to change the timeline at all. And I'll tell you why. And there's always the grandfather paradox or whatever it is, which with my theory I haven't figured that out yet. But as far as I can tell at the moment with time travel, if it's possible, right, let's do it this way. If time travel, someone figured out how to time travel in 100 years time and it was possible, and their decision was to go back in time to assassinate Hitler, right, to change the timeline. Now, number one, you have no idea going back and doing that would actually make the situation worse, make the rest of the timeline worse off. We don't know that. I mean, there's terrible things that happen in the world, but you don't know if that's actually, even though this sounds terrible, but we really don't know. That might have been the lesser of two evils of what could happen. It might have had to happen to make us end up in a better place further on down the track. Well, we don't know that. But it doesn't take away from the fact whatever happened is terrible. That whole thing's terrible. Things that happen in life is terrible, but we have to acknowledge the fact that since we don't know, that maybe if that didn't happen we would be worse off, more terrible things would be happening now. We don't know that. So that's a whole, you know, thing to get into that will end up, you know, driving you nuts trying to figure it out. And disclaimer, this is just my theory. I will put that in. I'm not saying I'm right. It's just my theory. But if someone did go back, say 1935, to try and assassinate Hitler, someone from 100 years' time, my view on that is that if that actually happens, we already know now that that person failed. Because even though this person doesn't do it until the future, if he goes back in time, he was there, say in 1935, to do this, he was there in 1935 before we end up here. So whatever he or she did in 1935 happened even before that person went back to do it, if that makes any sense. So no matter what, 1935, even before this person was born, even before this person decided to go back to 1935, was there in 1935 already, and their actions are already set in stone in the timeline. So we would know that already. If someone did that, they failed. That's my theory. I don't believe you can change the timeline. What happens is there, because I don't think time goes forward at all. I think there's a different way time works. We just look at it because it's 1 second after another, 1 minute after another. Everything's going forward, one reaction after another. And all time is basically is the result of a whole bunch of actions and reactions and stuff like that. All these equations equal, so like 1 + 1 = 2, then add in another one equals 3, add in another one equals 4, doing it like that in a line on a piece of paper, one after the other after the other. Which, if I'm confusing you and you don't understand what I'm talking about, my apologies. Thank you for the bits. So, but the upshot is, I mean, I've got my theory on it, and I just don't think the timeline can be changed, and that's the reason why, one thing I didn't like about those Star Trek movies. Plus, it was taken away of all the memories of the original Star Trek movie series. So, anyway, class is over. The study up. There'll be an exam next week on advanced theory on astronomics and what do they call it again? Theoretical physics. Alright, so I'll catch up on some chat now. I've had my little bit of thing. That's the problem. You're giving me big things to read, Mike, and you know I'm driving and got corners to try and keep up with. Which is, once again, the reason why I hate the fact, and I don't use that word that often, but I really do hate the fact I can't bring up the chat overlay. I don't know why it won't work with ETS or ATS. So what do we got that's been replied? Yeah, I read that one. Those scissors are really itching to be used. Yeah, with the amount of chat going on, they probably are going to get a good use today. The story takes place in an alternate reality that features both an alternate birth location for James T. Kirk and for the alteration system. Being from the time travel, both Nero, original series. Yeah, but that was because Nero went back into time. It was supposed to be his existence there caused it all. Yeah, I know the whole premise behind it, Mike. I just don't agree with the change in timeline. I just don't. My thing is, I don't believe you can change even. So, go back in time to change the timeline. I mean, go back in time to see what happened, sure. But, I mean, it's already happened. Seen it happen, don't change the fact that it happened. Going forward in time, there's the issue of how far forward do you go, because you don't know if you go forward 100 years whether or not the Earth is actually here. You could end up killing yourself because you travel into an empty space. So, if you want to take that risk, go for gold, you know? But you don't know. You could be travelling into the future to your own death, because you don't know if the planet will be here or what's going on, or whether or not there'll be air on the planet. The planet's here, but there's no oxygen or anything. You don't know. And some of the great movies of all time is because of an element of surprise. If you knew the outcome already, it takes away that fun. So why do you want to go into the future and find out what happens? Your class was wrong because he didn't change history in his universe. No, they weren't changing. No, they changed the timeline. They changed the timeline, not created another universe. Because his father died because Nero turned up. His father didn't die then. That's the way they worked it on, which changed the way certain things, people died and all that. It's supposed to change the way everything go on. It didn't create a new multiverse, it created a new timeline. Hey Wall, how are you, matey? I need to get in the other lane here. So and actually they're very clear in the movie itself too. Oh come on, I'm just changing this lane to get going and move your Mercedes. You know what? You got a Mercedes. Get a blimmin' move on. What the... It's... Someone get Mr. Magoo off the road. He changed the time like in different universes. It's explained in an episode of Picard where he talks about the destruction of Romulus. See, now you're confusing me, Mike, because the destruction of Romulus happened in his universe. In Spock's... and the... Spock's time, Spock's thing, and because of it created something, and they went back in time. Nero went back in time. To kill Spock. There's no point to him going to another multi-universe to kill Spock, because his Romulus didn't die in there. You'd go back to... He wanted to help his planet Romulus, so you wouldn't go to another multi-universe to do that. You want to save your planet and your universe. And Spock actually explains the timeline in the first one and how it all changed and everything else like that. So, yeah, anyway, shall we move on? You asked me about Stargate. I love Stargate too. Who was the one that asked about Stargate quite a bit ago? I mean, if anyone else has got their thoughts, put them into the chat. I mean, I'd love to hear other people's ideas and theories. I love that. And the reason is because one thing I know personally for myself in life is that even though you're right, you could still be wrong. If you believe you're right, there's always a possibility you're wrong. For every one thing you know about something, there's another 1,000 things to know about it. Every time you learn something new, there's some more stuff you realise you don't understand. And the more you get people's points of views, the more of an opportunity you can go, I didn't think of that, and have a think about it and become more right. So, and yeah, even though I'm disagreeing with you, Mike, but that's because it doesn't make sense to me. I'm not saying you're wrong, just at the moment I don't, because of what I've seen and everything else and what was said in the movie, which I recently watched again, by the way, and stuff. So, but yeah, who asked about Stargate? I love Stargate. Absolutely love Stargate. SG-1, Atlantis, and believe it or not, this is going to be an unpopular thing, which apparently is coming back. My most favourite was Stargate Universe. I loved Stargate Universe. Nobody did. Nobody liked Stargate Universe. And I think they're bringing that back. They're bringing the third season back after God knows how many years. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think I had a bit of a bit of luck, because I had a mate of mine, we used to watch the Stargate series, we used to flat together. I think in America you could have been roommates or something, but we used to flat together, and we were both big fans of Stargate, and we used to watch it. And then I'd moved out and stuff, and he'd moved out, but we were really good close friends, and he'd watched Stargate Universe before I did, And Stargate Universe was a lot different to the other two. It was a bit more serious, a bit more in-depth, a lot of characters and a lot of background to the characters that they were slowly revealing and stuff like that. And he said to me, basically it wasn't the same. So I think a lot of people who are Stargate fans went in with what they remember of Stargate and Stargate Atlantis, and they were pretty much similar, and they were fantastic TV series as far as I'm concerned. But they went in with that same thing, sort of like I would have gone in watching, you know, the next generation of Star Trek with the mind of the original series and what that was like. So I didn't have that expectations when I watched Star Trek Universe. So I was watching it essentially with fresh eyes, and yeah, I loved it. I loved it more than Atlantis and SG-1, and I did really love those two as well. I really loved those two shows. I watched all the SG-1, all the seasons, including when they brought in the two from Farscape, was it? The two actors from Farscape, or was it something else? I know they're both in a sci-fi show. I can't remember if it was called Farscape or not. But absolutely, yeah. And watched all the movies. Atlantis, I wish it went a bit longer. I loved Atlantis, was great. The Wraith were great. They were the best. I think, personally, I loved them more than I liked the Ghoul as foes. But the universe was great, and I was really upset that after 2 seasons, because people didn't like it. Like I said, I think it's because it wasn't the Stargate that people remembered. Oh, we got 300. We better get some workers going, eh? I need to make money quick. I've just forgotten about that. So let's get. Oh no, we've got to upgrade the garage first. Wherever the garage is. What am I doing? Garage manager. Yeah, where is it? Oh, because I'm on map view. Rightio. There it is. So upgrade that. Let's not do the cutscene, shall we? So chat, what are the other, if you're into your sci-fi, what other TV shows did you like? Sci-fi shows you enjoyed? The other one I really liked was Dark Matter, which was cut short too. Because the Sci-Fi Channel is really good at doing that. Cutting shows off that are good, but because they're not making them and it's challenging one of their other shows, they cut them. I've done that with a few shows because I'm not happy with the Sci-Fi Channel, but Dark Matter was another one I really liked. I'm really annoyed that they did that. Right, we need another scan yet. We can see how far away. We're halfway there. Or any other TV shows, actually. I'm not just a sci-fi freak. I don't just watch sci-fi. Yeah, nice. And someone to start making us some money. Quick, smart. Bring in the cash. Oh, now he turns up there. Oh, well, at least we know we got him next. All right, back on the road. Yeah, different universe. He did use those words, Mike, but he meant different, not a different completely universe. A different universe to how it was originally in a timeline sense. I remember that interview. And that was the context, and that's what a lot of people were saying as context. It's like saying if